Guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're keeping well. Now, a few days ago, Nigel Farage sat down with two woke presenters. So they're going to be asking him questions. They're basically going to be trying to stitch him up. You're going to see the way they ask the questions. They're going to try and lead him down some traps to try and catch him out. You know, I've been saying that for some time now, that these next few years, the establishment and woke interviewers and presenters will try their best to try and get Nigel Farage to fall for one of their traps. You know, they're going to play a lot of games because they know when the next election comes, he's going to be in the driver's seat. He's going to be the main party that people are going to be looking for as a result to a failed woke liberal Britain and West, you know, whereby borders are open, whereby there's a two-tier system in this country, whereby crime goes unsolved, whereby we empty out jail cells. When have you ever heard of a nation emptying out jail cells? So, like I've said many times, every nation in the West needs a strong conservative leader, and he's the guy that people are going to be voting for come next election. You know, I'm very thankful that Donald Trump is in and he's assuming office today, so that's a good thing. And we just need to see it for a few more years from this Labour government. They will be disastrous. But when the time is done, then Nigel Farage, quite frankly, will probably be the guy that will take charge. You know, let's see if he secures the $100 million or pound investment from, you know, Elon Musk. So yeah, but anyway, guys, we're going to be watching this video. They're going to be talking mostly about immigration and the economy. So they're going to talk about immigration. You know, the presenter's going to try and put words into his mouth about immigration, saying how you wanted no immigration. He's going to say, I didn't say that. And then he's going to be talking about Rachel Reeves's terrible budget and just lack of ambition into securing economic growth in the United Kingdom. And, you know, they're going to have something to say about that as well. So yeah, but anyway, guys, let's get straight into the video. So yeah.
Freedom of speech, particularly the Europeans, are deeply concerned about misinformation. Hang on,
anything we disagree with is misinformation. I know. Yes. We must all support globalism. We must all support open borders. If we don't, it's misinformation. I don't buy it.
On Elon Musk, with him and the other tech billionaires who support visas for highly skilled workers into the US, that's pitting them against the MAGA movement and people like Steve Bannon, who oppose immigration much more broadly. Who is right in that debate, do you think?
Well, I'll talk from a UK perspective. You know, I've always favoured high-skilled immigration. People that come in are net contributors to the country and, crucially, who integrate to a greater or lesser extent in our culture, our values. I've never had a problem with that. But of course, we've done the opposite to that. Isn't it amazing? Of the last 3 million people that settled here in Britain from outside the EU, the last 3 million, 22% are in work. Only 22% are in work. So how you manage immigration is becoming an increasingly crucial political issue. Bannon is sort of almost saying no immigration into America. I tell you what, if we want the City of London, where we're sitting right now, if we want our tech sector to be a world leader, if we want to turn this place into one of the crypto trading centres of the world, all those things, there's a lot we can do with British people, but we will need some highly skilled people from other parts of the world. I have no problem with that at all.
The issue with that, though, in terms of the immigration debate, is that on the one hand, your manifesto ahead of the election last year talks about freezing immigration.
No. Hang on. Let's just be clear about what we're talking about. There are always people leaving the country. You know, you sell a 3-bed semi in the suburbs of London, and you can go and live in Spain for the rest of your life, or Portugal for the rest of your life, or whatever it may be. What we're talking about is not to have overall population explosion due to immigration. So there's still plenty of room for people to come on either work visas or, in some cases, come to settle. So I'm not, you know, we are not putting up the barriers entirely. What we are saying is that low-skilled migration and those people bringing dependence has net been a negative for the UK economy.
How is that any different from the policy that this government and the previous government have tried to enact?
Because that's what they told people in manifestos and then did the complete opposite, which is why we're doing well in the polls. Trust has gone. Don't forget, the Conservative Party in 2010, 2015, 2017, specifically in the manifesto, said net migration of tens of thousands a year. In 2019, we've got control of our borders back with Brexit, numbers will be lower. And the 2023 number, before the revision, and by the way, all the revisions are upwards, is nearly 1 million. This is where we are. The biggest problem that those two traditional parties have is trust.
If we turn to the UK economy,
Yeah.
Britain obviously has got deep-seated and long-running economic problems. Those have asserted themselves in recent days in the turbulence in financial markets. How would you create economic growth in Britain? Everybody says they want to achieve that. It seems exceptionally hard to actually make it happen. Like, how would you bring that about?
I mean, Rachel from accounts is not going to achieve that, is she? I mean, clearly, utterly clueless. I thought that from the start, actually.
Facts.
Utterly clueless. Completely out of her depth. And there seems to
And
be...
yet they won in a landslide election.
Well, they did it, but it wasn't really a pro-Labour vote, was it? It was just an anti-Tory vote. I mean, that dominated the election. And remember this, it was a fairly loveless victory. And they only got 1/3 of the votes and 2/3 of the seats. Again, we're back to our friendly electoral system. I was amazed how little scrutiny Labour's economic plans came under in the run-up. What is clear is this. What is absolutely clear is this. They are increasing the size of the public sector, and the measures they've taken is already, even before April the 1st, when all this really kicks in, decreasing the size of the private sector. And there seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding on the centre-left of British politics as to how economics works. If you don't create private sector wealth, you are doomed. So she can talk, as she did when she came back from China on Monday of this week. She can say growth is our number one priority. Everything they're doing is anti-growth, including the key component. And the key component is confidence, and there isn't any.
If we look at the Reform Manifesto, it talks about departments saving £50 billion a year by cutting wasteful spending, bureaucracy and improving procurement. So that would be about 10% of departmental budgets every year for 5 years. How would you bring that about without huge cuts to the NHS, education,
It's very interesting you raised that. It's very interesting you raised that, because that was part of our contract that we put out with the people. We were told it's impossible. Nonsense. It would mean massive cuts to frontline services. Guess what? It's now government policy. So we're very good at leading arguments on this. What I have no doubt about, and this is going to be difficult for some industries to accept, and I think there could be the next big battle with the trade unions will be over the use of AI, the use of advanced technology, and how actually we can increase productivity with fewer human beings. And therein lies your real answer. And I think what you're going to see with Musk, if he's fully focused on Doge, this project in America, you will see technology increasingly replacing a lot of human beings. And that never, all through the history of modern mankind, that never comes without something of a fight.
But is your economic agenda actually a real plan? Because you're also promising 1.5% extra growth in terms of what can be delivered to the UK economy, as well as that £50 billion in spending cuts. I mean, partly, the issue is that the government is already in trouble with its own fiscal policies for exactly that reason. And are you going to be able to convince the bond markets anymore? I mean, 1.5% in terms of extra economic growth is pretty much the same as what Liz Truss was offering.
Well, let's put it like this. What we have right now are not just the rich leaving London and leaving our big cities, which they are, in their thousands. People are relocating. We're also losing the 30-something entrepreneurs. They're going. They can't see any prospect of Britain being a pro-business community. And I return to that word confidence. There are things that make markets work at times that you can't always rationalise. But it's about confidence. It's about optimism. It's about direction. And I would say this to you. Do you know, there's not a single person on the Labour front bench, not one, who's ever set up or worked in a private business. Not one. The Tories, not much better. And what we're saying is that we're not Elon Musk billionaires, but what we're saying is we're a practical group of people who have among us several successful business people. I think we've got more idea of what makes the economy tick than either the current Labour or Tory parties.
Yeah, confidence is a very difficult thing, obviously, to gauge and to inspire, and quite quick to sort of disappear. But the thing about your economic policy can you sell this to voters? Can you actually sell a plan that is promising a lot of growth, which may or may not happen, but is definitely offering enormous tax cuts now, which definitely brings in less money to the revenue?
Well, let's be clear about the tax cuts.
Would bond markets buy that? And also, it does mean effectively cutting the size of the state, and that is definitely not clear in your manifesto. You know, there's 4.2 million adults now on health-related benefits in the UK. Do they have to go back to work? I mean,
we need carrots.
In a reform UK world,
we need carrots and sticks, right?
But does the electorate know that that's actually the stick?
Hang on. The carrot's very easy. The big tax cut we want is to raise the threshold at which you start paying tax up from 12,500 a year to 20,000 a year. That is the big...
That is enormously costly. You cannot do that without massive cuts to government.
That is enormously costly, unless what it does is give people on benefits the real incentive to go back to work. Because the number of doors I've knocked on...
So how is that electorally possible? It's a little bit like Javier Milei's plan. It is very difficult to sell that to a broad swathe of
I would say to London-based media, come out and knock on doors in the poorer parts of the country. Because the number of people that have told me to my face, you know, I want to go to work. I want us to be better off as a household. But as soon as I work more than 16 hours a week, I lose all of my benefits. There is this terrible welfare trap.
So you think that tough message of get back to work is actually very palatable to the British population? For example, you know, I mentioned Argentina, Javier Milei, which again, by the Republicans and Donald Trump and Elon Musk, think that has been immensely successful, and a lot of markets that might agree.
I do.
Yeah, and you do too?
I do, yeah.
The cost of that economic success that is not as well touted is that poverty within Argentina has jumped from 40% of the population to 50% of the population. That is the cost of doing that.
Well, what I'm trying to do is keep people away out of poverty by making work pay. And I accept that it comes at a big initial cost. I absolutely accept that.
A big initial cost on day one?
I absolutely accept that. But I also think the stick, yeah, there has to be a stick. I mean, what is all this nonsense about 4-day weeks, work from home?
But how can you get to number 10 on that promise to the electorate, that you have to get back to work? Anybody who's suffering from depression, who has, you know, benefits coming in, you have to give that very hard... Would they vote
what
for
about the working population? What about those people I see on the M25 at 5:30 on a Monday morning, right? Heading off to work, working much longer hours than their parents or grandparents ever did, paying ever higher burdens of tax. What about them? No one ever talks about them. No one ever talks about hard-working Britain and the burdens they're under. And you know what? I think they'll vote for us. I really, really do. And I think you'll find there are people on benefits who know they shouldn't be on benefits, who will see what we want to do as being a way to help them to be better off.
But if your voters had read the manifesto, which you call a contract with voters, do you, as well as we have, do you think that is actually what is being communicated on the doorstep?
I think more would have voted for us.
I suppose
we need a bit of honesty about this. Why don't we tell young people at university and at school that actually the only way you'll ever succeed in life is to work hard? That hard work is good, success is good, making money is good. We need a change of culture.
The people that you're talking about meeting on and knocking doors, of course, that's extremely important. Those people do need the numbers to add up if your policy is going to work and is going to benefit them in real terms. The IFS said of the proposals in the Reform Manifesto, spending reductions would save less than stated, the tax cuts would cost more than stated by a margin of tens of billions of pounds a year. The problem is if you don't have the kind of rigour of the economic plan, you can't help the people that you're making the promises.
Well, you can, because there are many other things you can do. We talked about cutting the size of the public sector. I talked about the use of AI. I talked about procurement changes and cuts already. But the thing we're all forgetting is the just enormous dead hand of the quangocracy on everything from financial services to fisheries. The extent to which businesses are scared, on a day-to-day basis, scared that some unaccountable person comes in, tells them they're doing everything wrong, demands extra costs for them. Again, you see, unless you have frontline politicians who are actually in business, They don't
And there
understand
may,
what this is doing.
There may be a case for cutting regulation here in the UK, but you're not going to find £50 billion by cutting quangos. That is simply not
But
possible.
This is causing
but the idea also is that Britain has been through this now twice. The promise of cutting taxes now and feeling the benefit later, cutting taxes now and getting growth later. It did not last for Liz Truss. The October budget, you know, even though it was much more conservative with a small c, also has not withstood the market pressure very well either. And so that's why we go back to the figures. The figures are not credible. You're offering something that's not possible to deliver.
You will notice that actually, on tax, for example, which you both talked about to me, that we're being much more cautious than Liz Truss was. You know, Liz Truss was going for big bang, right? Everything at once, and clearly way too much at once, without corresponding initial spending cuts. Had she put big spending cuts in, although some may have objected to it, it might have been a different outcome. What we are saying is we want to reduce the overall burden of taxation, right? Yes, but the first big tax cut, the important first tax cut, is that one at the lower end of the tax spectrum. All right, so we're not promising everything at once.
So guys, there we have it. You know, Nigel Farage took on 2 woke interviewers and he seemed to do quite well. I do think that he needs to take these next few years to perfect his economic plan. That's just me being honest, you know. In terms of border issues, in terms of getting people to work, in terms of trade, you know, with the United States of America, I think he'll do very well. You know, if he can increase trade, you know, we need to increase trade, you know, in the United Kingdom. I think he'll do quite well in those sectors. Restoring cohesion, I think he'll do very well with that, because the Labour government are stoking up tensions and everyone just hates everyone. So, you know, he'll bring back cohesion. And yeah, I do think he needs to perfect his economic policy over these next couple of years. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.